Hey, what's up my legends? It's Cody Hunter here and I'm back with another video for you. Now today team, I wanted to address a little bit more about my body composition. Now in a prior video I talked a little bit about my goals moving forward for 2020, my fitness and training goals. So I'm not going to address that at all in this video, but what I am going to talk about is my composition changes from 1 year ago up until today. Now, as many of you are aware, I came from Korea to New Zealand almost exactly a year ago. Now, before I left Korea, I was heavily into training and coaching. Coaching was my full-time job. I was coaching multiple one-to-one clients as well as group coaching, and I was so much more active. Lifestyle in Asia, as I've addressed before, is all about being active. You walk everywhere. You pick your kids up from school, you're on foot. There's hills everywhere, so you're always uphill. So your general physical activity is really, really high, as well as hitting the gym, as well as eating really healthy, wholesome Korean food. So staying fit and in shape back then was actually pretty simple. Now, before I left Korea, I was sort of at that weight where I thought I was a little bit on the heavier side. So I was roughly 100 to 102 kilos. Now, for me, that was a little bit heavier than what I wanted to be. You know, I was sort of sitting around that range where I thought, oh, I better get my butt back down to about 98. That's where I want to hang. So performance-wise at that stage, I was training very hard. I ran a 21-minute 5K. I was running 8 to 10Ks 3-4 times a week, training at the gym every day, you know, really getting into it, really active, really fit. Now, when I looked in the mirror, I didn't really see myself as being in really good shape or being shredded, for example, but obviously I was in pretty good nick. Now, fast forward a little bit, coming back to New Zealand, straight into the summer of new job, new life, new everything. Now, food is a bit of a comfort for me. I mean, I was a fat boy when I was young. You know, I grew up being pretty chubby, very bad at sports, all those sorts of things. When puberty came, I got really tall, my fitness was really good, and I just got some speed behind it. It all came really, really fast for me. But before that, I was a big eater. Ask anybody that knew me when I was growing up, would probably agree I was one of the biggest eaters of that age. You know, if there were leftovers in the kitchen, I would ask about them before I even finished my meal on the table. And if my mother said yes, it was my mission to get there before anyone else. So I would just inhale whatever was on my plate, along with slices of bread and butter, and then I would go straight into the kitchen, grab the leftovers, and go at it one more time. Coming to New Zealand meant that I decreased in activity and I increased in calories straight away. You drive everywhere, you drink a beer or two with every meal almost every night. Well, I was. My bread intake skyrocketed from basically none to every day, 3, 4 to 6 slices. A lot more butter, AKA fat, was getting put into the diet. So there were some foods there that I wasn't controlling the quantities, but I was really hammering back purely out of like catch-up time. You know, I love bread, butter, and beer. As you'll know, the 3 Bs are 3 of my biggest favorite foods. So having access to really good quality of all 3 meant that I was catching up for lost time. Now, 14 years is a long time to catch up on, but I would say I pretty much caught up for lost time in a very short period of time. So my weight gain happened very quickly. So I said I went from around 100 to 102 kilos. Very quickly that skyrocketed up to what you all know, which I've said before, to 112 kilograms. During those early stages, my pants started ripping. I ripped about 4 pairs of pants. One day, I had my suit pants on because I was doing real estate at the time. I went to school to pick up my son after school, and by the time I got back home, he said, "Hey Dad, did you know that your pants are torn at the back? I can see your underwear." And this was all through while I was walking through his school, and he didn't say anything. So I don't know how many hours I spent at work, walking around the city, and also at his school with the ass hanging out of my suit pants. Now, there were so many other pairs of pants. I'm playing frisbee with some friends, and I jump, boom, tear the crutch out of another pair. And I shit you not, there were literally 4 pairs of pants over that about 6-month period that all tore. Now, this was not because I was gaining mass, like good mass. This is that non-functional mass that you don't want to get put on your body. The non-functional mass that's really not doing you any good. So the weight gain jumped up very, very quickly. I was sedating a lot more, AKA drinking alcohol to feel better, to hide the sort of stress of moving back to New Zealand and everything else that came along with it. So the alcohol then became that sort of nighttime thing that you have 1 or 2, decrease the stress, make hanging with the kids and all their energy a little more easy to handle. So that's what was going on. So you're having 2 beers, let's say, sometimes 3 per night. Fridays and Saturdays, maybe more. So all this is starting to snowball. I saw a couple of photos that someone had posted, and this happens to everybody, and I talk about it quite a lot. There's nothing more frightening than a photo, especially one you didn't know was being taken. You know, if someone takes a photo of you in a group, you prepare yourself, you suck in your stomach, you turn to the side, you change the perspective and the angles because you know what looks better for you in that particular time, in that particular photo. Now, in a photo that's being taken that you don't know is being taken, it exposes everything. The belly hanging through that shirt, you know, the love handles, the muffin top hanging above the belt there at the back, everything, you know, the double chin, the saggy, sort of tired, exhausted looking in your eyes, and the bag sitting there. You know, the skin quality just being poor because of the bad food and the increase of alcohol going in. So I saw these photos, as well as I ended up taking some of my own to really show how bad it had got. Now, if you see from the photo right here on the side, this is me at 112 kilos and what I would consider my worst on all levels. So my worst feeling, my worst performance, I was depressed, I was feeling really, really shitty, I'd split all my pants. Now, this photo is one of those ones that I discussed that I was a bit embarrassed to share, but I have to share it because why the fuck not? You know, let's just get it out there, let's just show it where it was. Now, when I looked at those photos and I sent them to a couple of really close friends of mine, the comment I got back from one of them was just, well, shit. That's all he had to say. Now, I told him it was bad. I told him that I'd gained some weight and that I was starting to look pretty bad. And he commented back with, well, shit. Which in my eyes means it was way worse than I think he expected. Now that shocked me a little bit. I knew, holy shit, that's a friend of mine who's seen what I look like. It must be worse than what even I think it is. Now, so I'm not gonna say I had to make this drastic change because I already was working out most days. I always work out. But it was the case of how many calories I was slamming into my system. Just obviously way too many. So I had to get moving. I had to get grooving to get the calories burnt out, to start getting my body back in shape, to start getting confident again in my performance and start feeling good. Now, during the early stages there, I started a new sport. I started doing jiu-jitsu. Now, putting on body weight, doing jiu-jitsu at 6 a.m. in the morning and doing something that I'd never done before, I got injured a lot. I hurt my neck, which is an old rugby injury, but just some of the angles that came back tweaked it out again. So all of a sudden I'm miserable, hating life, I'm injured. Then all of a sudden my knee, which has almost no cartilage left in it, again from rugby, was just being torn and twisted in all these angles that just destroyed it. At one point, I thought that I may have to go to the hospital and likely have surgery again. I felt like there was shit and junk floating all over the place. It was swollen. It was literally hanging off my knee. It was so swollen. And I did start to get really, really worried. But then my pride just told me to keep on trying, keep on trying, keep on doing it. So I'm training at the gym and I'm also hitting jiu-jitsu. By the end of it, I realized that this has got to change. I need to change something before an injury gets really serious where I do need some surgery. You know, I need to decrease my body fat. I need to focus on getting my health better before I start upskilling stuff. For me, I know my body. I hadn't had a proper injury in 14 years since I stopped playing rugby. All of a sudden, within 3 months, my body's falling apart. I knew something wasn't right. And it was everything wasn't right. So I had to give up on the jiu-jitsu for then, and I just had to get back into doing yards. Get back into training the way that I know works best for me, which is just doing the work, doing the yards each and every day. So I mentioned earlier, I did join a 90-day program, which is why I have the after photos, because this is the end of that 90-day program. So you'll see from day one there at the start, actually the before photos I'm showing you here are not 90 days. It's actually quite a bit longer than that, but I'm showing you my worst to my now. If you take a good look at the photos that I took just today, you'll be able to see there is some change there. It is better. You know, there's a lot more, the fat rolls on my back have gone down. You know, the puffiness around my face and everything has gone down. My stomach has decreased, and also my muscle mass has changed. But of course, a little decrease in fat there around the shoulders and chest will expose that. You know, so it's helped a lot. Training more means your muscles are just conditioned to feel better. You feel better and you feel stronger. So it's easier to even stand taller, to be more proud of how you look, and in turn makes you look better. Now team, in that before photo and in that after photo, I weigh exactly the same. I am 112 kilos in both of those pictures. Now, yeah, 112. Holy shit, that's heavy for me. My heavy weight back in the old days would be, say, 103 to 105. Now, that's getting heavy where I'd freak out and start pulling it back in. But again, I let it slip massively. So those two photos there on the scale showed me as the same. Now, a client I coach, I was talking with her on the phone today, and we discussed something very similar. about how she jumped on the scale and after 2 weeks, nothing had changed. And yet we look at the photos and the progress is clear. Everything had changed. So that's a big recomp phase. There's a phase there where you can increase your muscle mass, decrease your fat, and that weight will stay the same. Of course, there are so many more things to think about when we're talking about our overall weight, whether it's hydration, what time you went to the bathroom. There's a lot to think about. But what I'm trying to say here is that be very cautious and very wary about how much faith and trust you put in the scale. Because if you're standing on that thing every week and it doesn't move at all, you start to get disheartened. If your goal is to lose some fat and it's not changing, then you're getting a bit upset. So that's why you gotta be very careful, because if I had to start being upset about that early on, then I may have stopped training. I maybe wouldn't have trained as hard. And all of a sudden you just give up because it didn't change. Where in actual fact, you're doing so much good to your body. And it's not just about your body, it's about what happens mentally when you train that often. When you're getting stronger, more confident, your body changes in so many different ways where you feel awesome and it just flows on. You start eating a bit better, you start acting better, your positivity comes back in. The flow on and run on effect is massive. It's so massive. It's really, really awesome to see, and it's hard to measure sometimes. But that scale can be that one thing that blows you up, that freaks you out, that makes you upset. So with my client I talked to today, she was awesome because she looked at her own photos and she realized, man, that number on that scale means nothing right now. Look at those photos. And my clothing is fitting better. It's getting looser. So these things are all happening while that number stays the same. So that's why you gotta be really careful of that scale. It is a form of measuring something, but you can't put all your faith into it to be the be all or end all. Even those body composition analysis machines, like the InBody machine or the other things, you've also gotta be real careful with those as well and often take the results with a grain of salt. Often it can rely on how hydrated you are, when did you do them, did you train today? There's so many variants to consider that it can't be that one thing you just rely on and say, oh, that's my body fat. There's really not one thing that will give you a 100% accurate result. So you've just got to focus on the things that you can see and really tangible things. And I think the photos are great. The clothing feel is great. Girth measurements are awesome. These are just all tools to show you how far you've come. You'll see that over that stage, especially the last 90 days, I ramped up my training. I trained really hard following the program I had for 90 days. It was high volume. I was training every single day. My nutrition was tweaked up a little bit. I cut it down on the alcohol. I really just focused on having, I still focused on having good food when I wanted it in terms of enjoyable food, but I really limited the amount of it. I really worried about my portion sizes, and I made sure I was eating just enough to enjoy and not overindulge. It really did make the difference. At one point, I also went into tracking my calories. I really wanted to understand how much I was eating throughout the day because we often eat way more than we think. So the only way to know is actually to track it, have a really good look at it, and then we can figure it out from there. It's really important to understand exactly what calories are going in. And we're not just eyeballing going like, oh yeah, no, it's pretty good, mate. Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. We need to make sure that it's real, and then we can work from that baseline. We can see the truth. Because I can guarantee that most of us are eating way more calories than we think we are. And the only way to really find out is to track it all out. Let's do 7 days, for example. Every single piece of food or drink with calories that enters your mouth gets recorded. And overestimate as well. Don't go, oh, it's just a tablespoon of peanut butter if it's really closer to 2. If it's closer to 2, add the 2. Go a little bit higher than what you think. Track them all out, have a really good look at it, and then we can start going from there. It's something that's really interesting to do. Now, if you're scared of counting calories or you think it's too much work, then look, how bad do you want some results? How bad do you want to change stuff up? Because sometimes you have to do a little bit more work in order to get the results you want. Now, if you're not prepared to track them, and you've never been prepared to track, and you've never got results, then hey, enjoy staying the same. Enjoy keeping the same. There's some things we can do that will hopefully change you, but if we can't have a really good look at how everything is, then it's going to just be slower and potentially not change at all. So don't be afraid, just give it a try. So I think it's really important for me to share this story with you because yes, I am a coach. Yes, I have been training for many, many years. But even though I've got that experience and I've got that passion for sport and health and fitness, still life can get in the way. A new job, new environment, stress, having your kids around more often during the lives, many different things can still affect all of us. Now, things slide, things can get out of hand. The thing to understand though is that when that does happen, we need to be aware and understand of what we can do to pull it back in. Now I let it get too far out of hand. I let it drag on too long. Perhaps 3 months of that would have been okay, but it was so much of a big change for me, so much of an environment change, that the stress and those changes really affected me way longer than I thought. You know, that was more like an 8-month change. You know, instead of a few weeks to 3 months, pulling it back together, it was way longer, which meant the damage was way bigger. 12 kilos, you know, roughly 12 kilos of increased weight is way too much for me. You know, I should be weighing in, these days, I think my new normal will be around 103 kilos. Now, I need to get back down to that, and the goal is to do that over the next year. Is to work my way back down, but focus on being fit, strong, and healthy. That's all I can help. That's all I can focus on. You know, team, so if you're in a little bit of a funk right now, if you feel like you've got a little bit out of hand on some things, just pull things back and tear off the Band-Aid. Have a good look at where you are today, what your habits are like today, what's your daily activity like today, and change it by a touch. Change it by a fraction. If you're doing nothing right now, add a 10-minute walk to your day. Take the stairs at work instead of the elevator. Just make a small gradual change, and every week, change a little bit more, change a little bit more, change a little bit more. But the important thing, team, is to do those photos like I did. Tear off the Band-Aid, look at yourself in the mirror, look at yourself in the eye, and tell the truth. Where am I now? Where do I want to be? Where do I need to be? Where must I be? And how do I get there? That's the game plan, people. It's really that simple. It is not easy, but it really is that simple. All right, team, thanks for tuning in for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I gave you a bit of insight into the journey that I've been through in the last year or so, and also maybe some similarities to what you're going through right now. Maybe there's some insight there that can help you get back in the game. Now, team, if you did enjoy the video, please give me a thumbs up, give us a subscribe, or post a comment below. I'd really appreciate it. All right, everybody, we're gonna see you all again in the next video. My name is Cody Hunter, and I'm out. Peace.